what if an economy wasn't designed for profit, but just for survival? Well, today we're going to dive into a pretty radical vision from tech specialist Michael Price. It's a future where automated systems take care of our basic needs, and we, the people, are the ones calling the shots.
You see, this one question, it's really the key to the whole idea. What if we just stopped asking, is this profitable, and instead started asking, does this help us live? That single shift in perspective changes absolutely everything. So let's break down what that future might actually look like.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at why the author thinks our current system is basically broken. Then, we'll get into the essential resources this new economy would focus on providing. After that, we'll explore how it would actually work, who'd be in charge, and finally, what our lives might look like in a world where survival is automated. Okay, so first things first, why even bother with a new system? Well, the author makes the case that it's time for a kind of 21st century New Deal, but with a huge twist. This one would be owned by the people, not by the government. Yeah, the author really doesn't pull any punches here. His point is that the traditional safety nets we used to rely on are being torn apart. And that, he argues, means it's up to us, regular people, to start building new economic systems for ourselves, right from the ground up. This slide right here gets to the absolute heart of the argument. On one side, you've got our current system, where everything is about profit and loss. And on the other, a really simple but powerful idea. We can't eat money. The whole point is that producing the things we need to live shouldn't depend on whether or not it makes somebody rich. So, if profit isn't the goal, what is? Well, this new system is designed to produce 4 essential resources, the absolute bedrock of what every single one of us needs to survive. And according to the source, it all boils down to these 4 things: food, clothing, and shelter. That's pretty obvious, right? But the author makes a really crucial point by including energy as the 4th essential. His argument is simple. In a modern society, you can't produce the other 3 without it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about education and healthcare? And yeah, the author totally gets that they're critical. His whole point is that you have to build this foundational life support system first, and then, immediately, you expand it to include these other vital needs. Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. But what about the how? How does this all actually work? The proposal is for something called a new people's economy. And the key here is that it's a completely self-contained, closed-loop system designed for local communities to take care of themselves. It all kicks off with power. See, to be truly self-sufficient, a community can't be dependent on some big external grid. This system is designed to generate its own power internally, using clean, renewable stuff like solar or hydrogen energy. Okay, next up, raw materials. Instead of relying on mining or complicated global supply chains, the system would source its materials locally through some really advanced recycling. The author even gives this amazing example of turning old plastic bottles into graphene, which is basically a super material of the future. So once you've got the power and the materials, you can start making things. And this is where automation really becomes the star of the show. Just picture it, 3D printers taking those recycled materials and churning out everything from machine parts to clothing to even components for housing. And this is just brilliant. This is how the loop closes with local production. You could take old, unused buildings and completely transform them into automated vertical farms. Using techniques like aquaponics, a community could grow its own food. We're talking vegetables, fish, you name it, right in the middle of where people live. So we have this automated, self-sustaining system. But who's running the show? Who's in charge? The answer is basically the operating system for this new economy: worker co-ops that run on the blockchain. So let's start with the foundation, which is a really classic model, the worker cooperative. It's super straightforward. It's just a business that's owned and governed by the people who actually do the work. The guiding principle is pure democracy. One person, one vote. Simple as that. Now, here comes the 21st century twist. You take that classic co-op model and you add a layer of tech called a DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Just think of it like the digital plumbing for the co-op. All of the rules for voting, for spending money, for making big decisions are all locked into code on a blockchain. It makes everything transparent and completely automatic. And this table just lays out the upgrade perfectly. I mean, look at the difference. In a normal co-op, trust is all about people and paperwork. With a DAO, trust is literally baked into the code itself. You go from slow, manual voting to instant, transparent decisions that are recorded forever on-chain. This means a decision that might take weeks in a traditional setup can be executed in seconds by a smart contract. It's just faster, clearer, and way more secure. So why go through all the trouble of building this super efficient, automated system? Well, it's not really just about food and shelter. It's about automating a whole new kind of society and a new vision for what we could all become if we didn't have to work just to survive anymore. This right here is the big idea. It's a complete reimagining of what work even means. In this future, the machines handle all the hard labor of producing our essentials. Our job, our human effort, shifts from doing the work to just overseeing the systems, making sure everything is running smoothly. This would free up a huge amount of our time for things like leisure, creativity, art, or just spending time with our community. Of course, somebody's got to maintain all these complex systems, right? So the proposal completely rethinks education too. It would focus heavily on STEM skills and actually integrate kids directly into these co-ops from a young age. They'd learn by doing, rotating through different roles, so that by the time they graduate, they're already experts, ready to contribute. And really, that's what this entire framework leads to. This one massive question. It's a question about the future for sure, but it's also a question for right now. As automation gets more and more powerful, we really have to ask ourselves, if our survival was guaranteed, what would we choose to do with our time? What purpose would we find? What would you do with your life? It's a lot to think about.